Hello, everybody. Hello, a very, very warm and toasty welcome to Cop On Podcast, whether you're listening to the audio version or whether you're joining us live on YouTube. This is the FA Cup final preview, and it's an absolute joy to be joined by Josh. Josh, the Chelsea fan, you've been on Cop On a couple of times before. Welcome back. Absolute delight to have you back. Tell the listeners about your YouTube channel. What's going on these days?
Yeah, so my YouTube channel is JVSH. I stopped doing YouTube for about 3 or 4 months ago at the start of the year, but I started in YouTube again last week, and I've pumped up loads of content. I've got a match day vlog which was just uploaded today. I did my preview of Owen on my channel. I've got a weekly podcast on Thursday nights, and I've got some content planned for the remaining couple of weeks of the season before some very interesting non-football videos. In the off season, such as TikTok reactions, which I really, really look forward to doing those. So loads of content on the JVSH YouTube channel. Simple name, my profile picture. It's a really nice black grey profile picture which has my name and Thomas Tuchel on it, so it's easy to find. And if you haven't subscribed, I really, really appreciate you subscribing to me and showing all the amazing content. Because if you're a friend of Owen, you're a friend of mine. So that's the way it works.
Excellent, and it works both ways, absolutely. So that's JVSH. Do check it out, watchers and listeners. Okay, let's get into it. I've got my agenda, 3 pages in front of me. We'll just see how much we can get through. Let's start with the sanctions, because I looked 2 months ago. It was in around about the 11th of March. Sanctions were imposed against Roman Abramovich, blocking the sale of Chelsea, etc., etc. And in terms of the results, following that news, that bombshell. Sorry, it's not quite a very tactful not a very tactful metaphor. Perhaps I'll choose another word. That shocking news was followed by 3 wins for Chelsea against Newcastle at home, Lille away, and Middlesbrough away in the FA Cup. And me, for one, I was thinking, nothing's changed for Chelsea on the pitch. It's just off the pitch. But since those 3 wins, it's been 4 wins, 2 draws, and 4 losses in the 10 matches you played since then. And I just wonder what's going on, Josh. Is it just the sanctions that are getting into the players' heads, or is it something more complicated?
I think it's a mixture of different things. I think, first of all, yes, the sanctions do play a big part, because when you're playing for a football club, and going to be a ownership, there's going to be a change of backwards, board members. There's going to be a change of who's running the club. It kind of leaves you uncertain, because you don't know if that new owner wants you. You don't know what their position is on you. So it can create a lot of uncertainty in that mind, because you just don't know what the future of the club is. And then on the other flip side of things, you've got a lot, mainly in defence, but there are some players who are running out of contract next season. Jorginho being the obvious one, and then you've got Rudiger going to. You've got Rudiger going to Real Madrid. You've got Azpilicueta going to Barcelona. You've got Christensen going to Barcelona. You've got Trevor Chalobah, who is starting tonight, but has been left out of the squad for ages. There's just a lot of uncertainty. You've got a lot of your star key defenders who are going to be going to other clubs here in the summer. So, they don't really care where Chelsea are next season. It doesn't bother them in the slightest. Hypothetically, they're not going to put themselves on the line for a club that they're not going to be at next season. So, when you've got that contract situation mixed in with the sanctions, Stamford Bridge being half empty, not being able to sell programs, you're not being able to do particular advertising, which means the players don't get paid as much and all that. It's just so many different things. It is mainly all of the stuff. So yeah, it's a mixture of different things, and I do think that has played a big part in Chelsea's form. But I think it's more the contract side of things rather than the sanctions things, because the ownership thing has obviously now been not fully resolved. There's still a couple of checks and to do by the Premier League. But the Chelsea will have new owners, no issue about that. So, but the contract situation is a big issue because you need players who are committed to the club, and I think especially in defence, Chelsea just don't have that at the moment.
And I mean, who are you going to miss most from those players who are leaving? It's got to be Rudiger, right?
Rudiger, definitely. Yeah, Azpilicueta, I think Azpilicueta is done. I think he is no more than a bench player, probably now Premier League level. And Christensen, I like Christensen, but Christensen's always been an inconsistent player. And I feel like he suits the back three system. I feel like if we go to a back four, Christensen wouldn't be as effective. So, yeah, Rudiger is the big one. It's going to be really difficult to replace him.
Yes, okay. And then, before we get into the chat about the game itself, the FA Cup final, God, it's exciting talking about finals. And before we get into that, it looks like I don't understand who these people are. I haven't been following Chelsea all that closely because I've been so wrapped up in what Liverpool have been doing. So, I mean, the new owners, Ted Bowley, is that his name? What do you make of the potential new owners? It hasn't been confirmed yet, right?
It has been confirmed that he's going to be the guy. He's already signed. I don't know what the paperwork is inside it, but he has basically signed agreements and he'll buy Chelsea. Just I think the government need to approve it, and then the Premier League need to sign, and then the Premier League need to do their check. But once those two things are done, he's officially the owner. He was at Stamford Bridge to watch the Wolves game last week. He was at the women's game when the women's left the Women's Super League. So he is involved in the club. There's a lot of reports saying that he will back Thomas Tuchel. He's going to invest heavily in here in the summer, and he's basically going to jump straight in, all guns blazing. But he's going to try and invest more smartly than just chucking money and everything. So he's the guy who I wanted from the start. When we had all these different ownership, all these different owners putting bids in and making themselves known to the media, he was the guy who I wanted straight away. He owned part of the LA Dodgers. They have a really good system there over there in America, and if he does a similar good system here in a football terms, then Chelsea will succeed. So I'm very happy with him. But obviously, you say a lot of things when you're trying to buy a football club to get it over the line. What actually happens when he buys the club and will it continue into a fair year? Different story and impossible to answer until the distant future.
Well, no, it's very interesting stuff. It's very interesting to see what happens there. But all right, let's talk about the road to Wembley then. Your road to Wembley started with Chesterfield, a 5-1 victory, and then you won away in extra time. Sorry, at home in extra time against Plymouth Argyle. Then you beat Luton Town away from home 3-2 before defeating Middlesbrough in the quarterfinal 2-0 away. A potential banana skin, that one, as they say. And then you beat Crystal Palace in the semi-final 2-0. Not much to really talk about. This seems fairly straightforward in terms of that. But then if I look at your goal scorers in the FA Cup run, Lukaku is up at the top with 3 goals from 4 starts and plus 1 appearance on the bench. And then next on the list is Timo Werner with 2 goals and 3 assists from 3 starts and 2 substitute appearances. So Lukaku and Werner have done quite well in the FA Cup. Is that just because you've been playing, relatively rubbish teams, or have you been impressed with the FA Cup, or you don't really take too much stock about who you're playing?
Well, let's look at look at the opponents we played. The only Premier League opposition we played was Crystal Palace in the semi-final. Other than that, you were playing Championship and League One teams, and even though 2 for Luton Town have done fair won the Championship, to be fair, but Chelsea should have still been better against them than what we were. Middlesbrough we were lucky against. Plymouth we were extremely lucky to win that game, like really lucky to win that game. I think Plymouth probably deserved to go first. So I think Werner and Lukaku have done well and they've shown up when we've needed them too, but considering the teams that we played, I think Crystal Palace was the game we won comfortably the most. I'm not going to include Chesterfield not because Chesterfield's a non-league side. We know any team's going to hammer them. If I'm from probably League One upwards, so I don't count Chesterfield in that statement. That Crystal Palace was our easiest game, and that says something. So I hope we've saved our best performance for the final. I'm sure probably we're going to bring it up at some point, but this would be our third consecutive FA Cup final, and we could lose our third consecutive FA Cup final. So that's the thing that plays on my mind probably the most is I just cannot lose another FA Cup final. I don't care if it's to Liverpool or Manchester City or flipping going boring wood. We just cannot lose another FA Cup final. I don't care how good the team is. We need to win.
Yeah, I mean, it was difficult, wasn't it? Because against Arsenal and against Leicester, I don't really remember the game against Arsenal. I remember last year's against Leicester with that wonder goal from Tielemans. But Chelsea were just like, I don't know, underwhelming in that one. And I imagine against Arsenal as well, it was maybe an even worse performance a couple of years ago.
I think the Arsenal one was because we took the lead really early on and we actually played really, really well. But then I think Kovacic got sent off and it just went downhill big time from there. And if I'm being honest, no, obviously Lampard was still managing them, but Arteta schooled Frank Lampard in that final. Arteta had a game plan. The game plan was fantastic, and Arteta just completely bossed Frank Lampard for the whole game, and we deservedly lost. And I think that was tougher to take because of how much Lampard got schooled in that game, and Kovacic getting sent off. It was just a disaster class from the players and from the manager.
Yeah, okay. Well, thankfully, from your point of view, Frank is now plying his trade, if you can call it that, with Everton, barely keeping them up, but nevertheless, he's adored by the Blue Faithful. In terms of Tommy Tuchel, I mean, you can't expect any surprises in terms of how he's gonna set up, any tactical surprises for the weekend, or will it just be the usual, three at the back?
I think he's going to be three at the back. Yeah, I don't see him changing away from that system. I think it'll be the 3-4. I think it'll be a 3-4-1-2. Mason Mount kind of playing in behind a two-striker system like Lukaku, Werner, or Lukaku and Havertz. And tactically, I think he's going to sit deep. I don't think it's going to be a low block. I don't think it's going to be like a Spurs low block, for example. I don't think, we're not that bad, but we don't have the ability or the energy to match Liverpool. So I think we'll sit back in our shape. We'll try and defend the first and second balls and then try and break really, really quickly with Mason Mount. So I think probably it's going to be. I don't think we'll park the bus like Conte did. We're not that type of team. We've tried it against Manchester City twice this season and it failed dramatically. I don't think he'll do it in the cup final at Wembley. But I don't see us trying to match you. So I think it's going to be one of those games where we'll press at the right time and then we'll sit back at the right time. I think we'll try and throw different curves at Liverpool to try and keep them guessing.
Yeah, very interesting stuff. I mean, Gary's in the chat. Hello, Gary. Great to have you with us. He said it's going to be a great game. I can see that happening. I can totally see it happening, that it turns into a classic. I can also see it being turgid as well. There's an expression that French, footballers and people who work in football in France talk about, and they say, you don't have to play a final, you just have to win a final. And there is this sort of, the way that Liverpool have been playing, where we just sort of get the job done. We've been playing in every match like that, really, or almost every match. But I think it could be a cracker. You're absolutely right, Gary. It could be amazing as well. In terms of the Dangermen, Josh, who can really hurt Liverpool?
Well, I was going to say Kovacic, but Kovacic just went off injured after the Dan James red card. His ankle was really badly strapped up, so I think that's Kovacic out for the cup final. Kovacic would have been the one I would have said, but I'm pretty sure that's him out now. So the Dangermen, Who would it do? Probably Reece James. I think Reece James is going to be really key for us. I think his ability to get up and down the wing, he can hold up the ball. He's good. He's very good defensively when he gets back into the shape. I think his ability to try and play balls into the box if Lukaku is up front and trying to link up with the midfield. I think Reece James is just going to be key in terms of getting forward, trying to defend. If it's Mane or Diaz on his side, and trying to be a link-up man, from defence to attack. We don't really have that. He is kind of our guy. He likes up to play. So I think if Reece James can get that ability to get forward and cause issues in the final third, I feel like he'll be a big difference in that regard.
And on the left, I mean, Marcos Alonso will play, right? Because Chilwell's still out. I mean, is he playing well recently, Alonso? Has he been playing well?
Nope. He's been absolutely awful this season. I think I just don't like Alonso. He scored a good goal at Old Trafford. He can score goals well. Like if he's in the box and a shot falls to him, he'll take it and he'll score. But defensively, he's a shambles. He doesn't have the recovery pace. If he's cut out of position or we're cut out of the ball, and he's high up the pitch. The amount of space. And the amount of space it opens, and the team has to start dragging and going into so many positions, and you just lose your whole overall shape and discipline. It's absolute. It's awful. I don't like him. I would happily sell him for a bag of quavers, if I could. I generally hate. I think he's a terrible footballer. He's a terrible professional, and I can't wait to see the back. And Barcelona apparently, Barcelona trying to get Azpilicueta, Christensen, and Alonso off this season. They can happily take Marcos Alonso. Happily and get a young, look at who you bought. You bought that young Tomiskins guy for 10 million or something, and he is I think he's a fantastic backup to Robertson. Alonso's the complete opposite. Chelsea should just get someone like that, someone who's cheap, willing to play for the club, who's a good backup and can improve and learn off, the person that's ahead of him.
Yeah, interesting stuff. Who do you think the Dangermen are for Liverpool from an outside point of view?
Luis Diaz. I really like Luis Diaz. I think his pace. I think he can score goals. I think he's extremely direct. I think his pace and his on ball dribbling is fantastic. I think he offers something that none of the other Liverpool attackers really have. And I think he's stepped in place of. I know he doesn't play in the same position as Salah, but he stepped in, and Salah's fatigued, bit of downhill form, and he's given Liverpool, probably just someone who isn't Salah level, but he's still someone who's extremely dangerous. And I look at him and I think, yeah, he's the one I'm probably scared of the most out of all of the front three at the current moment.
He has been amazing. Gary saying Diaz is the threat for Liverpool. Yeah, I mean, he's been so good, but I think we've got so many of them. If Kovacic is out, so you would play then. I mean, Kante. You said to me before we started recording this that Kante's legs have gone. I mean, would you trust him to play alongside Jorginho? I mean, he's one of my favourite non-Liverpool players. But I haven't seen him recently.
Well, you see, that's the thing. Now, a thing that probably says a lot is Kante isn't on tonight. So I'm not actually too sure if Kante's available. Ruben Loftus-Cheek came on for Kovacic. So I don't actually know if Kante's even available himself. I don't know. He has picked up a lot of injuries. If Kante can't play, he'll play against Kovacic. I'm pretty sure about that. But if he can't play, then we'll see Ruben Loftus-Cheek beside him. I love Ruben. I think he's good, but Ruben and Kovacic in the same midfield. None of them know when to sit back. Both of them want to get forward and be good on the ball and try and influence the final third. I think Jorginho is good, and Jorginho does sit back more, but he's not a defensive team. He needs someone a bit more mobile beside him. And Ruben Loftus-Cheek is mobile, but he likes to get forward. So I just don't see the balance. I don't see the balance there, and I'm sure Tuchel will try and obviously sort that out. But if it can't be, yes, I play Ante. If it can't play, it's going to be Ruben Loftus-Cheek. And it just slightly worries me because I just don't feel like it's a midfield that really works well together with their attributes. They're both fantastic players, but they're two players that don't really sit well together. And I feel like if those two do start, Liverpool also, along with Alonso's kind of side, do have an area that they could attack Chelsea because it's a midfield that would be very easy to play through.
Yeah, very interesting stuff. Absolutely. What's for dinner is in the chat, which is a marvelous name. He says the first time I cried and cried and cried over a football match was the 1977 FA Cup final versus Manchester United when we, being Liverpool, lost 2-1. Our treble was gone. What's for dinner was 12 years old, and he will never forget that day. Excuse me, I'm assuming it's he, might be she. They will never forget that day. May 22 was very similar in many ways. We beat City by a point in 1977, and we won the European Cup. Good grief! That would be nice to beat City by a point and win the European Cup. But we're talking about the FA Cup, and that's we do remember defeats sometimes more than victories. I don't know what some of your favourite FA Cup memories. I mean, maybe Drogba beating Liverpool back in 2012, the only time that these two teams have met before in the final.
Yeah, that was a cracking game. I think Chelsea have had a good history in the FA Cup other than the last 2 years. We've normally been very competitive. I remember under Antonio Conte, we bet Manchester United 1-0 in what was probably the most boring FA Cup final I've ever seen in my life. That was diabolical to watch. We still won it, yes, fair enough, but we got a penalty early on, and then we literally had no interest in trying to get a second goal. It was just park the bus, hang in there, and that was a diabolical game. And then you've got the last few years, which have been frustrating because we haven't turned up in those two games. For cup finals, we didn't play to our standards. So it's the FA Cup is apologies. This is I've been being up early, get tired around this time of day.
It's okay.
I think the FA Cup with Chelsea's been great, and we've had a fantastic history. We've won it loads of times, and the last 2 years have been difficult. And I think that's what gives Chelsea that little bit of that's what gives the extra bit of motivation, maybe so to speak, that they don't want to lose. It's for a cup in a row, and that might just give them the slight little bit of motivation to push on and try and win it. And just damper the mood on this channel, Manchester City have scored against Wolves. It's 1-0 Man City.
Yeah, I'm following it on Google. It just said Kevin De Bruyne scored in the 7th minute. I mean, not many Liverpool fans would give anyone much of a chance in the league against Man City, and it seems that I mean, for good reason. I mean, they're a great team. If we end up losing the league to them, then it would be disappointing. But we have to look at it as an incredible run, and we'll be back next year, I'm sure. But back to the present, and the Dangermen. I mean, I want to talk about Kai Havertz because this season, his record in all competitions is he's had 58 appearances, 3,470 minutes. He scored 19 goals and 5 assists. Is he doing better? I mean, he's only 22 years old. Is he gradually growing into this team and impressing you, or is he still just, I don't know, underwhelming?
No, I do. I think Kai Havertz is a fantastic young player. I think for Kai Havertz, it's going to be one of these situations where you're going to see these big promising glimpses of him. He scored some big goals for us, in his time at Chelsea already. But I think as a young player, you do get highs and lows, and when you got that potential, you'll show your potential. A young player in a very difficult league and in a team that is struggling, and especially a fan base that can be so critical, you can be made. You will have bad moments, and those bad moments will be shown out loud because Chelsea fans do criticize every little player for every little wrong thing. The amount of times Reece James and Mason Mount, two born-bred beautiful Chelsea players, have been critiqued out. That's just the way it is. So I think he's such a young player. I think he's came into England. He's done a fantastic job. He's shown the potential that he's got. He just needs to take these bad periods that he's had, and the bad period being at the moment, and just kind of take it into the next season and learn and improve. He's improved a lot from last season. He just needs to do that again into the next season after this season. But if he continues to improve, the guy has so much potential. It's unreal. He's really good at holding up the ball. He makes smart runs. He's got fantastic finishing. He just needs better decision making, and he needs better decision making and the right of in the past. He can get his link up play slightly bit better, and he can be better in the decision making aspect, along with the ability that he does have. I think he'll be a fantastic player. But it is what he always was a long term project with Chelsea, and the early glimpses are promising, and it makes me excited to see what he can do in the future.
Excellent stuff. And a guy who we should be talking about as a danger man, but may not be in many people's eyes, is a guy for whom we have received a question from our listeners. And Alan, hello, Alan. He asked me to ask you: do you think Lukaku overall has been a waste of money?
To be honest, yes. I think Lukaku. I guess why we got Lukaku, and I've said many times Chelsea needed a striker, and considering the options that were available in the summer, Harry Kane was going to Harry Kane was interested in the Spurs are going to Man City. We did try and get Harden, but it was always going to be impossible. And last summer, just because of how much money they wanted, obviously it was different this season with the release clause, and that's how Manchester City have got him. Yeah, I do. I think it was a waste of money. I think he's a good player. He's a good player, but I just don't think he's Premier League caliber. He can finish, but he doesn't like the physical. He doesn't like the physical attributes of the Premier League. He doesn't like doing all the pressing. He doesn't like running off the ball. He doesn't like being in a physical battle, and that's just the way the Premier League is. I think he has slowly started to improve these last few games, but it's the same as Ferner. Ferner had a very good spell a couple of weeks ago, and he's back to his usual self. If Lukaku can end the season on a high, I hope that could be good, and maybe we can be a bit more excited for next season. But 100 million for that, no. He's had on the bench for half the season. It's just a waste of money.
Okay, I think Wolves have equalised, so I am actually gonna chip off fairly soon and get all excited, only to be disappointed by City once again, probably. But you never know. I'm still believing. I think we spoke about this before as well earlier today, Josh, on your channel, JVSH on YouTube. Do check it out, everybody. We did a preview on your channel as well, and you asked me about the my belief that Liverpool can actually win the league. I think we've got about a 2% chance, a 1.5% chance if City win today. But I'm going to believe wholeheartedly in that 2% because it's not over. And I don't give up until Sam Allardyce's wife sings, as the expression goes. So, yes, before I chip off, I've got one more question from our listeners. This one's from Ryan. He asks, Hudson Odoi and Rhian Brewster were part of the same England under-17s that won the Youth World Cup. And with Brewster, it didn't really work out for him at Liverpool. From the outside looking in, it appears to be heading that way for Callum Hudson-Odoi too. What do you make of that? I mean, what's happened to Hudson-Odoi? Do you like him? Can you see a future for him?
Well, Hudson-Odoi, unfortunately for him, the past few months has been dealing with a very bad Achilles injury. He hasn't ruptured his Achilles as such, but his Achilles has kept him out of training now for a good 2-3 months. And before that, he wasn't starting regularly, but he was coming off the bench, and he was actually making really positive impacts. I think he was coming off the bench and getting goal contributions. He was playing part in big moments of games. So I think for Hudson-Odoi, it was just unfortunate that this Achilles problem kept happening. Does he have a future at Chelsea? Depends who Chelsea get in the summer here. If Chelsea go out here and more attackers, I do see Callum Hudson-Odoi being potentially loaned out or sold. Because they won't keep him around to let him sit on the bench. I think he's on like 170 grand a week. I want to play first team football, so both parties will be looking to get that issue resolved. It depends on the summer window. If Chelsea stick with who they've got at the moment, then I do think Hudson-Odoi will stick around and play a part in the squad. But if Chelsea do go out and say buy another striker or maybe go and get another winger, I see Callum Hudson-Odoi probably leaving on loan in the summer. It really depends on who Thomas Tuchel wants. I think Tuchel loves him, but would he be willing to, keep him around rather than buy someone else top class in the transfer window? I can't see it.
Yeah, very interesting stuff. Okay, let's move on to just the last part. I mean, talk about predictions, but I'm going to be a bit more specific. I'm going to say, because you're going to go for a Chelsea win, of course you are, but I'm going to say, like, how in your mind can you envisage Chelsea winning? Like, what's the most likely way that Chelsea get the win on Saturday?
First of all, Liverpool. We need Liverpool to. We need Liverpool to. I think we need Liverpool to misfunction. I think it's probably a good way of putting it. We need Liverpool to be slightly off in their press. We need them to leave a ton of space in behind. We need them to try and play we need them to try and play into us. If Liverpool press, we can get balls over the top, explore the space in behind. I think that probably gives us the best chance. But if Liverpool press us really, really well, we'll struggle to play out. We'll lose the ball. We'll knock it down the pitch, and it's difficult to say when it's all about us beating the Liverpool press or Liverpool pressing properly. I think that is the key because Chelsea struggle against the press. And if our midfielders cannot get out of the pressing of the ball to our front players, it's going to be a long, long day. So the press is the big thing. We just have to hope that Liverpool are a bit more fatigued. They're not going to press as heavily and let Chelsea, get the ball and create some opportunity. So I think that's going to be the key bit for us.
Yeah, very interesting stuff. I mean, unfortunately, Fabinho looks like he's missing out, and I think that could be an avenue for Chelsea to exploit, either side of Henderson. But yeah, I agree with you. I think the press from a Liverpool point of view, I think the press is the key as well. If we can not only win the ball back quickly as we have done all season, but then keep our heads, because I've noticed, in attack, the past couple of games. I mean, Luis Diaz is averaging a pass success of between 79% and 92%, whereas Mane, Salah, Jota are all around 65%. So we're going to have to keep the ball and make the right decisions, or at least two of our three attackers are going to have to make the right decisions a bit more. But if we do that, I think Liverpool can win. Definitely. But there you go. City have gone 2-1 up. Apparently an unlucky deflection that could have gone wide, but didn't, unfortunately. So there you go. As we're recording this, 20 minutes gone. Man City 2-1 up against Wolves. Done. But there you go. Gary Richards in the chat. He says Liverpool can win it, but Liverpool need a striker. Interesting. Thank you very much. For that, I think Mane is doing very well. 12 or 13 goals since the AFCON. I can't remember exactly how many, but it's going to be great. It's going to be great fun. I want to thank you so much, Josh, for joining us. And I'm about to, self-inflicted watch Man City win the league, more or less, but there's still a chance for Liverpool. I'm never going to give up until it's over. But thank you so much, Josh. It's been a real pleasure. And I don't know, roll on Saturday.
Yes, well, good luck for Saturday, Owen. Good luck to all Liverpool fans. I will say this: I hope it's an enjoyable game, nonetheless. For it isn't going to be one of these boring FA Cup finals where both teams are caged. I hope both teams do go for it and go out to enjoy the occasion. I hope Chelsea win. That's the one thing that I would say. That's the one thing I would say. But wish you all the best. Wish you all the best, Owen, and I'm sure we'll have a wee talk on Twitter after the game on how we feel. But I do hope you're on the losing side, no matter how much I do like you as a person.
Yeah, very, very good. Is very honest. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as usual, I hope the best team wins, and I hope that's Liverpool 5-0. But thank you so much anyway for joining us, and thanks to everyone for listening and watching. Thank you.